All right, that ding means we are now broadcasting on YouTube. Join us at PeaceNewsNow.com/live. You can see live video of the show as well as join others in the chat room. I am signed in there. So ask your questions there. You can also dial in 443-424-8347 or Skype us. Peace News Now. Tonight is Thursday, January 8th, 2015. I'm your host, Derek J. You can learn about me at my website, derekj.me, or tweet your questions at derekjme. So, tonight we've got a good one, focusing on media and peaceful resistors in indie media. John Vibes joins us from the Free Thought Project to start things off. Then we got Dave Ridley of the Ridley Report, and Morgan Rockwell from Bitcoin Kinetics, changing directions a bit, turning towards engineering for the peaceful future. Very exciting guest we had on Bitcoin Talk Show yesterday, and he just blew my socks off. So amazing. Can't wait to talk to Morgan. And we might get a special call from a state rep who gave a rousing speech on Rule 63. Wait a minute. Rule 63, which is apparently the rule that some Democrats messed up, saying that state reps can't carry guns on the state house. Bogus. Well, they fixed it. And, of course, that cartoonist was murdered. We'll get into that. Reason's take and Banksy's take. That was all cool. But first, let's start things off with John Vibes. How you doing here?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. And what do you go by? Your name is like one of those names that's constantly changing. What's your name today? Are you like Puff Daddy, or what's your name?
Well, yeah, John Vibes is what I kind of go by now. I started off with JG Vibes, which was
I liked that one. Why'd you change from JG Vibes? That was cool.
Well, because that was kind of a pen name, and when I got on the radio and started talking to people, and they were calling me JG instead of John, and they didn't know what my first name actually was, it was kind of awkward.
Yeah.
So I just figured I'd go with John Vibes.
Do you have any advice for people who are thinking about changing their names?
Well, personally, I think that it's not necessary, of course, but I think that there is some value in having a somewhat of a chosen name, because we don't get to choose our names. Yeah. And if we're into freedom, I think that should be something that we should be free to choose. And also, if we're activists and we're putting ourselves out there, it may be smart to have a different name on our activism than on our government issue ID that a police officer is going to see when he pulls us over. You know, we don't want him to be able to necessarily go back to his car and look onto his laptop onto Facebook and see all the posts that I make about the police while he's right behind me. So, you know, it may be a smart thing for activists to do in these times, even though Facebook is kind of making it difficult, speaking of them.
Yeah, Facebook. Hey, did they have a problem with your name?
I'm not going to talk about that right now because I've been lucky.
Oh, geez. All right. Well,
fingers crossed.
Too. Freeman is kind of like an acceptable name, even though it's a chosen name for me. Facebook hasn't given me any problems about it. They haven't asked for my ID or anything. And even if I did, I faked my ID. I've made I scanned in my driver's license and then put it in Photoshop and changed it to Derek J. Freeman, just in case they asked, you know. So maybe you could consider doing that. Because they're not a government agency. Who cares about
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
We got a question in the chat for you. Is this guy American Indian? What's with the name changes? You kind of answered that, but are you Native American?
No, I'm actually not.
All right.
Well, I mean, I was born here, but no.
All right, good enough.
My ancestors weren't, probably.
Now, I like you. I read you every day because you're over at thefreethoughtproject.com kicking out the best stories that the mainstream media is underreporting. How do you pick these stories, and when did you get started with the Free Thought Project?
Well, you know, I've always had kind of an aversion to, of course, what's going on with the drug war and the police state, and over the years, you know, I've experienced several arrests myself. I've had 2 of my businesses ruined because of the police that were, you know, starting to be relatively successful. And, you know, I was really drawn to the material that they were putting out there, and I asked them if I could get on board, and they were happy to have me. As far as the hunting down the topics,
Yeah, how do you find it? You're always first. Like, I hear about this story, it's a shocker, and then I go to the Free Thought Project, you've already written an article on it. I mean, you're always first to stories.
I don't mind giving out a few of my secrets. I do have like probably about 200 or so RSS feeds on a program that called Feedly.
Yeah.
It's like a RSS reader, and that
set up their Feedly with 200 URLs. You're the only one doing that.
Yeah, and that really helps me out. Also, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Google Alerts, but you could type in a term to google.com/alerts, and every time that term hits the web, any kind of news story, you get an email about it. And if you have a Google account, it goes into a separate folder so it doesn't clog up all your other stuff. So, police brutality, Bitcoin, liberty, any kind of news story that has those words in it, I get an email about it immediately.
We got a suggestion in the chat for an app or something called RSS Owl. Have you heard of that?
That is a good one, and I used that prior. However, Feedly you do not have to download, and you can use it. It ties into an app on your phone, and you can monitor like what you've read and what you haven't and stuff a lot easier than RSS Owl, in my opinion.
All right. So that's how you handle RSS feeds. What were your businesses that got shut down by the government?
Well, there was a nightclub that I was managing.
No way! You're a nightclub manager? It got shut down?
Yeah, that's kind of how I was started in my nightclub promotion and stuff like that with throwing raves. And we were going strong for a really long time, probably about 1.5 years, which is a long time for the kind of stuff we were doing.
Yeah.
And then they came in with guns drawn, and they shut us down.
Who's having a party? We have to stop them.
Exactly.
This is stupid. Okay, so was that kind of your first experience?
And then
well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And then the second issue, it actually wasn't a business of mine. It was a day job that I had gotten after that business. It was a really good job. I was making good money doing sound and lighting equipment. The place loved me. I worked hard. I commuted 2 hours. And as you know, I like my weed. I always have weed on me. So if you're a cop and you ever want to throw me in a cage, you know how to. Yeah. So I got pulled over on the way to work one night, and they happened to pull me over right in front of work. And of course, they look at my face in the window, and they do everything they can to get into my car. I refused search. They ripped me out of my window in front of my managers, my coworkers, and they brought a dog out, signaled, and took me to jail. I did not have a cell phone camera at the time because I had an old flip phone. So after that, I kind of tended to get a little bit deeper into the specific police state issue.
Yeah. Did you feel like maybe by writing these articles you could save a future you? Like there are other guys like you out there that just didn't take the steps to protect themselves, and maybe they could benefit from this info you're giving them?
I really do hope so, and not just for those people as well, but also the individuals that these stories are about, because there's not a lot of people that want to speak for these people. Sometimes I come across stories of individuals, and I made a post about it today, that I'll see a news story, and one example is the case of Rubain Brisbane. Mm-hmm. He was a man from Arizona who was going out to get food for his family one night, and he parked out in front of his apartment building.
Hold that thought. I want to find out what happens to him next. This is Peace News.
If you want to move.
Sorry about that. We got a little 4-minute break.
No problem.
Got to interrupt for the commercial.
Happens on radio.
Yeah. So this is great. I can't wait to hear about that guy. That was going to be my next question. Is about like how personal does it get when you're writing these stories? You have to do some of your own investigative work, and it must get to you. I mean, emotionally, it got to me doing Peace News. I was doing 5-minute segments, reporting on broader news, and it got to me, man. So I don't know. I want to know how you hold up, and we'll get to that when we come back. So
This story is probably one of my most emotional ones that I, you know, and I'll fill you in on some of the details.
what did you say the guy's name was again?
Rubain Brisbane.
I'm gonna look that up while we're.
Rubainbrisbon.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Rumain. This was about a month ago.
Maybe it's Caesar salad. Sorry, I shouldn't make fun of this guy.
I'm gonna double check while we're on break.
Urbane Brisbane? No, that's a restaurant.
Yeah.
Can't find it.
But basically, I mean, this was a story that nobody was going to touch, not even in the alternative media, because this guy was just vilified immediately by the local media and made to be a criminal.
Why can't I find a story on this guy? What do I have to Google search? His name.
I'll let you know right now. I'm searching it.
Okay. I'm going to.
Well, you actually search "man killed on his doorstep" John Vibes.
Oh man. Yeah, there it is. Oh God. These are the stories that I started just going right past. I don't even read these anymore. I'm sorry, but when I see this, I'm just like, I can't handle it. I can't handle it, man. It's too crazy.
I know.
It's too like exactly.
It is, and it's just that somebody's got to do it, unfortunately, because these people need to be spoken for.
I say that to you, to Carlos Miller. I'm like, I don't know how you guys have the fortitude to just keep going and reporting on these stories. He says the same thing. He's like, somebody's got to do it. All right, I'm gonna get some more water.
It's really difficult, and that's really cool.
All right, I'll be right back.
Easy way to spread the ideas of liberty further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. Facebook.freetalklive.com.
Freedom Feeds with Michael Dean and his weird friends.
And this is my show, Freedom Feeds.
I love that.
I hope you like it. If you don't, I don't really care. I don't make it for the masses. I make it for the cool weirdos who are up late at night. Insomniacs, swing shift workers, the homeless. Yeah.
People in other countries.
People in other countries who are at their day job that's 9 to 5. Good point. Good point. The unemployed, the underemployed, the worried.
Hey, y'all. Now, if y'all are feeling a little worried tonight and you've got a hamster running around in your brain, we have a solution for you. Just put your hands on your computer or your telephone.
Yeah, I'm a fan as well.
Oh, you like Freedom Fiends?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Michael Dean is hilarious.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting him out at PorkFest. He was a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, that's my first time meeting him, too. Hero of mine. Here we go.
Listen to LRN.FM on any phone, anytime. 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Hey, thank you, John Vibes. He likes my shirt. It says, "Kill the President."
I got it. I got the same one.
Yeah, you know, the picture that I was going to use of you, John Vibes, for this interview is from PorkFest, and you're wearing the "Kill the President" shirt. The only problem with that image is it's like 150 pixels wide or something, so I needed to grab something else. Anyway, you're listening to Peace News. You can call in and share your thoughts. You can join us in the chat room, PeaceNewsNow.com/live. Our Skype address is PeaceNewsNow. If you have questions about news stories or generating in the media, as John Vibes does, he's telling us a story about this man, Romain Brisbane, who was killed on his doorstep. And if you just Google Man killed on his doorstep, John Vibes. It'll pull you right to the article at thefreethoughtproject.com. You were saying, John, that this is one that personally affected you in recent history. What's the story here?
Well, I mean, I came across the story, and you know, as soon as it happened, I saw a couple of stories pop up from Arizona saying suspected drug dealer shot and killed by police. And, most people are going to see that headline and they're going to gloss right over it thinking, oh, the police got another thug. And
Drug
I clicked on it, I looked through the story, and, it didn't add up. And all the pictures that they were using of this man was his mug shots from like 5 years ago of pot arrests. So
Where did you grab his picture?
this guy gets shot by the cops. Go ahead.
Where did you grab his picture? Because you used this picture of him with what looks like his two girls. He's smiling. He's with family. So you're doing some counter propaganda here. The mainstream media is doing their nasty propaganda, trying to make this man look like a criminal and support the police because they caught a bad guy. He sells drugs, so therefore he's bad. And you're sort of shining some humanity onto this man.
Exactly. Well, I contacted his family. I found a support page for him, and I found some of his family. I found some of his friends. I started asking them some questions about the situation. And then, I started realizing a lot more about this story that was being totally covered up in the media. And one of the main facts is they said he was found with marijuana, but he had a medical marijuana card. Are you there? It looks like the screen's frozen on me.
No, I'm practicing my statuesque figure. So go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. Well, yeah. So he had a medical marijuana card for the marijuana that they found in his car. When the police questioned him at his car, he got out of his car and immediately ran towards the door. Now, this seems irrational to some people, but he did have a legally owned firearm in his car that he left in his car. So he did not want anything to do with the police with that gun near him. You know what I mean? I believe that was a smart move on his part. So he had a legally owned firearm in his car.
Smart move. Let's hold that thought, because what do? You're in a car, you know it has a gun, and the cops are right behind you. You probably have some weed on you, and the charge for weed plus a gun is going to be like life. So what do you do in a situation like this? This man chose to bolt for his front door. Is that right?
Yes.
That's probably the smartest
Exactly.
thing. But God, that's terrifying. There's really no good option there, because cops are probably going to shoot a man who's running from them. Right? So
it's a lose-lose situation. So then, he gets to his front door. There's the police say that there's a scuffle, and then he's literally shot right in his doorway in front of his girlfriend and 3 children. And the police never even released they may have like a month later, but it took them a very long time to even release the name of the person who was responsible for the murder. And of course, he never saw any consequences. And in most of the mainstream accounts of this, they painted this man as just some suspected drug dealer, yet he never had any intention of hurting this cop. If he did, he would have had his gun on him. And, it was just a very upsetting story for me just because of the way that they tried to paint this guy. As I said earlier, I've been arrested. I have mugshots flying or, floating around out there. But what happens if I'm in one of these situations one day? You're going to see my mugshot on a news story instead of the millions of other pictures that are out there of me? And I just think that is something that really, that just really gets to me, and it really shows you whose side the media is on and what their agenda is. And I'm not going to hide the fact that I have an agenda. People accuse me of having an agenda, and I do. I want to bring attention to what's going on with the police and what they're doing, and I really don't think that there's many circumstances that they're right in. You know, it may be an extreme statement for some people, but that's how I feel.
Do you have many haters?
Oh, I got plenty, as we all do. Anybody who speaks about this kind of stuff is going to have a lot of haters.
What do they say? What kind of things do your haters, your detractors say?
Well, the most often thing that they bring up is highly incorrect. They always tell me that just wait until my house is being robbed, or just wait until something or other, and I will call the police. And I'll be happy that they're there. And of course, I don't want cops anywhere around me ever. I'm never going to call them. Even when I was ripped off with the first book that I wrote for my publisher, I didn't pursue legal action against them because that's not what I do.
Right.
I found a free market solution and I republished the book myself. So, people accuse me of going to use the state when I quote unquote need it, and that's not going to happen. And the other popular thing is that I'm trying to bring about some Mad Max and the Thunderdome future scenario where, we're all killing and eating each other because there's no daddy government around.
Yeah, those people can't be taken seriously. So you use the Peacekeeper app. People talk about you calling the police. I assume you probably wouldn't call the police if you had an emergency. Instead, you'd probably prefer to rely on your friends and neighbors. Do you use the Peacekeeper app to stay in touch with them?
I'm actually not familiar with the Peacekeeper app. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Okay, it's free. It's for Android and for... Here, let me do this on reverse. It's free for Android and iPhones. And you pull it up. I keep it on my home screen. It's got a little thing for a little one-touch button for intruders, medical emergency, a fire, or an abduction. And you can use this. Intruders could be anybody, could be police, could be a robber, and I'm part of a group called the Keen Cop Block group. And so when I push one of those buttons, that instantly sends a blast message out to everybody. Anyway, just a cool app that you might want to rely on. Where are you located, by the way? Who would be in your area?
Well, that's what I was just about to say. I mean, my closest neighbor that isn't in my family is pretty far away. I live on kind of a compound, so to speak. My wife's family has some land in the middle of the woods, and we kind of are in a cabin.
I've got a lot more I want to ask you about. Unfortunately, we've got to put a rain check on this. We've got to continue this another time. This has been John Vibes, the Free Thought Project.
Hi, I'm Derek J.
And much more. You have a book. Now that we're on a little commercial break, I can at least plug. I'll pull it up on the screen. Hold on. We got this awesome book, Alchemy of the Timeless Resistance. Check it out, John Vibes. This was self-published, right?
Yes, it was. That was the self-published version.
Alchemy of the Timeless Renaissance. Okay, thank you very much for this interview. This has been terrific, and I really appreciate your time. I have so much more that I would love to ask you, and I just admire your work so much. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Hey, likewise, man. I'd really love to, and I'm trying to set up kind of a DIY studio in my house, so hopefully I'll have better lighting and stuff soon. But you know how it ain't cheap, so we're trying to do it piece by piece.
Oh yeah, I understand. That's how it always works, especially with like small operation indie media people like us. Anyway, I appreciate your work. Hey, do you have a Bitcoin address or something that people could kick you some donations if they're like, hey, we want to get John some lights?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to send that to you on Facebook or something like that?
Yeah, put it on Facebook, and I'll put it in the show notes for today's episode.
All right, thanks so much, man, and you keep up all your great work as well.
Thank you. Peace, man. Let's get you some Bitcoin donations today.
All right, thanks so much. Take it easy.
Thank you. Peace.
All right. See you in June.
Will do, yeah. He's talking about June, the Porcupine Freedom Festival that's coming up. Oh, I can't wait. Going to be very exciting. Hey, we're going to be having Dave Ridley calling in shortly. He is scheduled to be interviewed any moment now. So I'm expecting, oh, I've got this thing muted. I wonder if he's been calling in. Let's check. Boop. No, fortunately, the line is still open. I haven't missed his call yet, so let's put these ads on.
800-648-9173. That's 800-648-9173. This ad is paid for by participating member law firms. We are not an attorney referral service. Representation may not be.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
Free Press Publications is an independent, alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website, fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper, FPP News, at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
You can interact with other LRN listeners in our message board at forum.lrn.fm. That's forum.lrn.fm.
Charlie Hebdo. He is the artist who was murdered in France. I've got the story here from Mediaite. He says, quote, "I prefer to die standing up than live on my knees." And indeed, that's exactly what happened this morning. This story written yesterday, of course. 12 staffers of the French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo were executed by alleged Islamist extremists in retaliation for their mocking of Islam. Long-standing practice of the magazine. Excuse me, I misspoke earlier. I said that was the man. That's the magazine. Long-standing practice in the magazine, given these defiant interviews with Charlie Hebdo, editor Stephanie Charbonnier, who was murdered in this morning's attacks. Quote, "We didn't feel like we could kill somebody with a pen," he told Le Monde 2 years ago in a statement, explaining why he continued to publish outrageously controversial comics. "This may sound pompous, but I prefer to die standing up than live on my knees." We publish caricatures every week, but people only describe them as declarations of war when it's about the person or the prophet of radical Islam. Let's see. Extremists don't need excuses, he added. "We are only criticizing one particular form of extremist Islam, albeit in a peculiar and satirically exaggerated form. We are not responsible for the excesses that happen elsewhere, just because we practice our right to freedom of expression within the legal limits. If we worried about the consequences of each of our drawings in each of our 1,057 issues, then we would have had to close shop a long time ago. Nevertheless, he is grateful for the protection of the police, who, he says, politely and with concern inquired about the contents of their new issue." Now we get a call from who I hope is Dave Ridley. This is a 603 number. So hopefully this is Dave Ridley. Are we speaking with Dave?
So you are.
Haha, terrific. It's good to have you on Peace News tonight, Dave. How are you, and how are you holding up?
Oh, good. I don't really have much to hold up against.
Okay, terrific. Well, you are calling from the Shire, the Free State of New Hampshire, correct?
Correct.
Okay, terrific. Well, you're a hero of mine, Dave, and it's the first time that I've been able to have you on the show and interact. I appreciate you taking the time. You know, I learned about the Free State Project from you and your videos,
nice.
Advertising, freekeen.com, and all these goofy ads. I love them. How long have you been doing that?
Since 2007.
And you moved here in what year?
In 2004.
Okay, and you were one of the originals, Dada Orwell, right? You were on the Yahoo forums, and we could see your mind was already getting into the gear of how can I bring this project to the next level. You brought your media talent from. Well, let's talk about that. What was your previous job before you moved here to New Hampshire?
I actually worked for Fox for, I guess, about 8 years.
Ooh, Venom. That's terrible. Did you hate it?
No, they were nice to me. Right up until the day they ditched me for being an activist.
Seriously? I have negative emotions when I hear Fox News. Probably just part of the lefty background that I came from. But you liked it. You enjoyed it. Did you have enough freedom to work there?
Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, it was complicated because I didn't really become a libertarian until after I joined the Free State Project. They actually talked me into it, right? I was just a conservative when I joined in 2002. So it wasn't really until it took me about 2 years to really turn me into a full-fledged libertarian. And actually, I use the term anti-aggressionist now because I'm not precisely a libertarian. I'm an anti-aggressionist. It's a little bit different. But I wasn't that frustrated, because I was more mainstream, around the year 2000, I was fairly mainstream. So, the frustration set in more as it's just like, it's like anything else when you're sort of awakened to a problem that you never thought about before. It's the red pill phenomenon.
Indeed. Kickstart in the chat says, Dave Ridley is the reason I found Free Talk Live and LRN. So if you could pass that along, a thank you, I'd appreciate it. So there's a thank you from Kickstart in the chat room. He appreciates you turning them on to LRN and Free Talk Live. And he's a frequent guest in the chat room. So thank you on both of our behalves.
Oh, good.
So you're the, number 2 YouTube channel in New Hampshire?
Last I checked, I mean, I don't check every 2 months. It's it's probably more like every 6 months that I look into it. Last I checked, that was the status. It's sort of over the years, it's been neck and neck between me and the ABC affiliate. And sometimes I feel like maybe I am actually edging them out, but it's just hard to measure. And it's hard to know exactly what to measure, right? Because YouTube doesn't say who's number 1 and number 2. It's just a matter of, how many subscribers, how many views over the last. Oh, what should it be? In the last year, the last 2 years, the last month? So I'm not. It's a little bit difficult to measure, but it's pretty easy if you just go to YouTube and you type the word New Hampshire and you see all the different channels that are at least using that keyword. You can get a sense of who the most popular channels are in New Hampshire.
Now, you've got a really unique style. You do several different video types. You do ambush interviews, commentary, political musings. I enjoy all of the different variety. Which do you enjoy the most?
The ambush interviews. It's not necessarily that I enjoy them while I'm doing them, but I just feel very alive right after I've done them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, does it make you feel alive? I get butterflies in my stomach when I'm about to do ambush interviews.
I get pretty excited beforehand too, and it can be fun to do them, but there's just a lot of waiting involved, so that's not so good. But it's just I feel like I'm the only one practically that's doing it. There are rare occasions where other people will do these, but it's just like I'm filling a niche I can't seem to get anyone else to fill. But it kind of makes you feel important, right? Especially if you're talking to somebody that's well-known public figure.
Well, you've inspired Ian Freeman to grab some ambush interviews. I know James Cleveland has taken up the helm in that regard somewhat. So I know you've inspired some others, but no one is as professional and regular as you. You recently were interviewing some school bureaucrats, and they're the funniest to me. I love to watch them squirm and run away from your questions, which are very simple. Are you surprised that they still evade you?
Not necessarily. I mean, you could do worse than saying nothing, right? I mean, we all know that from dealing with cops. So when a bureaucrat just ignores me, or especially when they just, they say a little bit like, well, I can't really comment on that right now. I'm not really sure. So they actually are acknowledging my presence, but they're not really providing much of an answer. That's when they escape the best, generally, or if they're just a transparent person and they answer my questions, that usually makes them look pretty good too. They don't look quite as good when they say nothing and pretend like I'm not there. But then if they try to stop me from filming, that's when the real fun starts. That's when the really, large number of hits start to come in, and that's when they're the perfect storm.
We have a head scratcher comment from H. Reardon. H. Reardon asks, well, I guess it's not a question, it's a comment. Maybe you can explain this. On Thoreau's birthday, I posted the link to Dave's illegal puppet video show to websites. What is he talking about? What's your illegal puppet show video?
Well, you're talking about early Free Staters. The Reardon is one of the people that moved here about the same time I did, so he's been here for 10 years. And I remember his name from the early Free State Project forums. But the puppet show idea was, Thoreau was thrown in jail for refusing to pay a war tax. That was what made him famous. And so I did a puppet show to sort of reenact that. And really the reason for doing the puppet show is because there was a law regulating puppet shows in New Hampshire.
Oh, hold that thought, Dave. I need to know about this law regulating puppet shows. More with Dave Ridley when Peace News returns. We'll take your calls and questions. You can dial in 443-424-8347 or Skype Peace News Now.
Shiny badges.
Are you able to hold through for a break?
Yeah, I can go all the way to 11. That's not an issue.
Terrific. I think that would be great. I've got a lot more questions for you, and I've never interviewed you, so I really appreciate your time. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, it's kind of like a role reversal.
Yeah.
I can actually, if you need me to, I can go past 11 too.
Oh, that's okay. Well, thank you. I've got someone scheduled for 11. I'm hoping to interview John Burt on the rule number 63, which I'm sure you heard about, the state reps carrying guns in the state house.
Yeah, you may also be able to get some good information from him that no one else is talking about regarding the that there was going to be a rule change to make it harder to get votes on the record.
I didn't even know what a rule change was. I'm so naive about all this government stuff. I thought it was a law.
I'm not even sure it was a rule change. I don't understand rule changes well either.
Yeah, that's all crazy. All right, we'll be back in 3 minutes. I'm going to get myself some water and relax a little bit. You'll hear some commercials in the meantime.
Okay. Change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. You can help by joining the AMP program for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com and getting perks. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
Instead of just listening, you can also watch. See the Liberty Radio Network's key New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat, all free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Ross Ulbricht was arrested by the FBI in 2013 and charged with victimless crimes in relation to allegedly operating the Bitcoin-based Silk Road black market. He has been in a prison cell awaiting trial ever since. If he did it, he's a hero for making the black market a safer place. If he did not, he's a man wrongfully accused. Either way, if you love freedom and want to end the war on drugs, Ross and his family need your support. You can learn more and help fund his defense at freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1.
Kelly
Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online at your shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. You'll likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same great prices, and LRN gets a cut. Please do your online shopping at shop.lrn.fm.
It's the Onion Radio News. All 7 deadly sins were committed at a church bake sale. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Avarice, sloth, envy, lust, gluttony, pride, and wrath. All 7 of the fabled deadly sins were committed on Sunday at the twice-annual bake sale at St. Mary's of the Immaculate Conception Church. According to St. Mary's treasurer, Beth Ellen Coyle, church-sponsored events are a notorious breeding ground for these treasonous acts against the Lord God.
This is supposed to be about the glorification of God, not violating his word. Do that and you're no better than that cheap strumpet Melissa Wyckoff with those sinful chocolate cookies of hers.
The 7 deadly sins were first outlined in the 5th century by Gregory the Great, who himself was, as indicated by his very name, toying dangerously with the sin of pride. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network. If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Yeah, this is Peace News. Welcome back. We're live. It's Thursday, January 8th, 2015. Gonna make that mistake a few more times this year. Hey, we've got a video. This is Dave Ridley performing an illegal puppet show in Concord. Have a listen to this.
Idea. I'm the government, and I think it'd be great for us to invade Mexico and kill Mexicans. Look, there's Henry David Thoreau. He's got some money. I think we should make him pay a tax to help us kill Mexicans. Hello, Henry David Thoreau. Can I have your money now so I can kill Mexicans? No. I don't know what to do. I'm going to run away. 3 years pass. And the government realizes Henry David Thoreau still has not paid his poll tax. Henry David Thoreau is going to work one day. Henry David Thoreau, I demand that you pay your poll tax so we can kill Mexicans. Or help, well, actually we're done killing Mexicans, but we want to help pay for the Mexicans we killed last year. So give me the money now. No. I don't know what to do. Okay, I have an idea. Henry David Thoreau, I will pay your tax for you if you just go away and leave me alone. No. Very well then, Henry David Thoreau. This is your last warning. Give me the money or I will put you in jail. No. Last straw.
What a powerful illustration. Okay, so you can watch the rest of that video. If you just Google Dave Ridley illegal puppet show Concord, it'll come right up. It was easy to find. What an amazing illustration, Dave. What was the reaction to your performance?
No one arrested me. I was right in front of the State House violating a state law that says you have to have a license to do a puppet show for profit.
Please, obey the laws, Dave. Unregulated puppet shows are dangerous.
Maybe. Well, actually, some people walking past thought so, because I guess some kids came to watch. You were just walking past, and as soon as the mother realized that this was an anti-authority type of thing, she got to get out of there as fast as she could. But this was part of a, back in the mid 2000, like the 2006 era, we had sort of discovered civil disobedience or rediscovered it, and I was kind of lit on fire for the idea of doing civil disobedience in that era. And so I promised that I would keep doing this puppet show and stuff like it until somebody arrested me.
Did that ever happen?
I ended up having to do it, I guess, 8 or 9 times. And each time I would add some new violation, right? You know, like the next one, I think I paid homeless people slightly less than minimum wage to sit in a chair. And
what did this get under the bureaucrat's skin?
Eventually it did. What happened was, the 9th one, I guess it was, the civil disobedience I promised to do was to record video in the lobby of King District Court, which was forbidden, and they did arrest me for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we have a listener question. Ian said he's always been the one recording in courtrooms in New Hampshire. Question from Nathan. Was it Dave Ridley who first started that in New Hampshire? And if now, how did, I guess he means, and if so, how did New Hampshire become the state where you can film in court?
Well, you could essentially almost always film, I think, but it just wasn't as common. I have not tried to film in court very often. It's not my favorite place to film because it's harder for me to get interesting video there.
Right.
But I did one of the civil disobedience things that I did. One of these 9 was at King District Court earlier, where I insisted that I would film in court. If they tried to stop me, I would still film in court. And at that point, they relented that, this was civil disobedience number 4 or something like that. If I recall the timeline correctly, they didn't interfere with me. Judge Burt was pretty cool that day. But when I tried to come back, a few months later and film in the lobby, that's when the arrest had me arrested.
What's your relationship like with Judge Burt?
Oh, there's not much of one. I mean, we've never had any kind of conversation outside of court. It was a fairly professional interaction when he did, grant me leave to continue recording and didn't try to stop me. And then it was also a fairly professional interaction when he had me arrested and, then went through the process of sentencing me and so forth when I refused to pay the small fine.
Now, you're obstinate in your recording and reporting method. Am I to understand that you have not changed the camera that you use since the videos I started watching that moved me here to the Free State Project back in 2009 or so?
That one did eventually break. The one I bought in 2007, and I think it broke in 2013. And I ended up having another one just sort of land in my lap that was very similar. It was even older. But
You're kidding.
A better camera. It was a better camera. It was a high 8 with a digital output. And it worked really well for about 6 months, and then my computer that I was connecting it to started to fail. I still have that camera; it still works, but it's not got a lot of life left in it yet. So just kind of I'm working on scraps and just whatever's lying around. The main reason for that, part of it's to save money, but part of it's also the fact that to change cameras, you almost have to change what you're editing on, and that's a huge problem when I really like Windows Movie Maker. There's really just nothing that's ever come along that parallels Windows Movie Maker, and I don't want to. These cameras you get at the store, they don't work very well with Windows Movie Maker, so it interferes with the editing process if you try to get a nice camera.
You focus solely on New Hampshire. Why is that?
That's not actually true. I did a video yesterday about France, so there'll be occasions where I just am opportunistic, or I just, there's a reason to do something that's not about New Hampshire. But I really do tend to feel a little dirty when I do that. I feel like we're going off mission when we're not focusing on New Hampshire. And as much as possible, I'd prefer to focus on New Hampshire. We need to make it sort of like, America's second capital, right? Make it so that, everybody talks about Washington news, right? The whole country talks about that. We need to get the whole country talking about New Hampshire.
I agree with that, and I appreciated your video. Once upon a time, you produced something that said essentially, no matter where you're reporting from, you can still report on what's happening in New Hampshire. Even if you're elsewhere, you could still bolster the efforts that are going on here by reporting on the news that's happening here. I mean, that Rule 63 thing that just took effect in Concord is, I think, big news. That's not being reported on in the mainstream. That could get some more attention.
Yeah, it's like what's the best analogy? It's just, you want to create a buzz. You want to get people excited about what's going on here, and it really doesn't matter too much what you're talking about as long as it's interesting. If it's a picture of a hottie who moved here, that's great. If it's a picture of a conflict, if it's Ron Paul, if it's Rand Paul, if it's some bad guy in the primaries who's running, and you're confronting him, no matter what it is, it just helps keep that spotlight shining as best as possible. But we really have a long way to go. I mean, there have been probably a few thousand mainstream media articles about the Free State Project, but really, ideally, that number should be hundreds of thousands. We should be above the fold in the New York Times, the way Slovenia was, in Yugoslavia when it broke away, or the way Estonia was, when it broke away. The Estonians and the Latvians, they had like people hold hands across the entire girth of the Baltics, or the entire length of the Baltics, right? And there was a solid human chain, in 1989 or 1990, and they had the world's attention focused on them, and we need that here. We need to have the world's attention focused on us.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job focusing attention. I want to plug your website, RidleyReport.com. Subscribe to Dave Ridley on YouTube, his channel, of course, Ridley Report. Is there anything else that we can plug for you, Dave?
Don't get mad, get video.
That's right. I love that. I appreciate it. Thanks for putting out amazing content. I always look forward to the next Dave Ridley video, and thanks for all the inspiration.
Thanks, Derek.
Cheers. All right, coming up, we've got John Burt. He's going to be calling in talking about that Rule 63. Why are state reps carrying guns at the State House?
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who...
Excellent. I don't know if we're still connected, Dave. Can you still hear me? Oh, he hung up. All right, great. Let's get connected with John.
idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
Did you know you can get news updates about what's happening with the Liberty Radio Network delivered in the way you prefer? You can sign up for our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. Plus, you can stay in the loop by joining our Facebook profile at facebook.lrn.fm or follow us at Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm. It's all free, so sign up now at updates.lrn.fm for news updates delivered to your email box, facebook.lrn.fm to follow our Facebook page, and twitter.lrn.fm to receive our tweets.
I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, January 8th, 2015. Silver is trading at $16.50 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,210 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $284. Antiwar.com reports at least 37 people were killed and 66 others wounded yesterday in the Yemeni capital city of Sana'a when a suicide bomber rammed a minibus packed full of explosives into a line of recruits at the nation's police academy. At least 3 of the slain were civilian bystanders, while the overwhelming majority were would-be recruits for the police force. No group has yet claimed responsibility. It is believed, however, that the attack is the work of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which has launched similar strikes in the past. Police are operating under the assumption of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula having done it. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula is believed to have enjoyed a surge in recruitment in recent weeks, owing to the increased influence of Shiite Houthi rebels. Sunni tribesmen have been backing Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula as a sort of counterbalance. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Coinbase. Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. That's coinbase.fppradio.com. Reuters reports foie gras is back on the menu in California after a federal judge on Wednesday struck down the state's controversial law banning the production and sale of the culinary delicacy that comes from the enlarged livers of ducks and geese that have been force-fed corn. While some California chefs plan to celebrate the return of fatty duck liver, animal rights activists said the state's hard-fought foie gras battle was far from over. California's bill outlawing foie gras passed in 2004, but the ban did not go into effect until 2012. Foie gras producers and restaurants for years have lobbied to remove the ban, which gave rise to underground duck easies that offered foie gras or sold it as unlisted menu items. In their latest Canada, New York's Hudson.
Hey, hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, John. This is Derek.
Hey, does this work? I think it does.
Yeah, it sure does. Boy, we have you on video, too. This
Yeah,
is great.
okay.
I wish there was a way to patch in Skype video onto Google Hangouts. As of yet, I don't know how to do that. So I cannot use the video. If you'll turn that off, it'll probably increase our audio connection.
Okay, how do I turn it off?
There's a little video icon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that should boost our audio so that sounds even better.
Okay.
And, yeah, you sound great, and you look great. I wish I could use your picture, too.
All right.
But, yeah, thank you so much for making the time to connect with us today. I think this is really important that state reps have the freedom to wear guns in the State House. And that's, as I understand it, the new ruling.
It is the new rule.
Okay, cool. Now, we're not live yet. We'll be live in 2.5 minutes on LRN.FM. Right now, I'm broadcasting on YouTube, but it's a commercial break at the moment. So
okay.
I'm just getting some water and clearing my throat. And
now, will I be able to podcast this later? Will you do that?
Yes.
So I can share it? Great.
Yes, yes. This will be live at midnight. It will, when it goes off air, it goes live immediately. So I'll be able to put it online and share it around. Thank you very much for considering that. Now, I heard Dave, I don't know if you heard one of his questions. He said maybe you could tell us a little bit more about something that's happening at the State House. I forget what it was. He said, oh, if you're talking to John, maybe you could get some more information on something that isn't being reported as much.
Yeah, I wonder what it was.
Oh, dang. Maybe I'll think of it during the interview.
All right. Yeah, because there is a lot going on up there. Maybe the Rule 20?
Maybe that was it. What's that one?
It's a roll call for you have to have 20 people second the roll call, where it used to be, well, it still is. They wanted to change it to 20, but to get 20 members. So if I yell roll call, I have to have 10 of my friends currently stand. They wanted, in order to second the roll call, and then our vote is on record. Not all votes are on record.
Weird.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's get into that.
That might be it.
That is interesting. Yeah, that might be it. All right, well, hold those thoughts. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Okay, thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Major leap in our understanding of social interaction. We conducted trials in 90 supermarkets across the country and found that essentially 100% of people disapproved of having a stranger hit them across the face and then expose their genitalia right in the middle of the supermarket, which we found very interesting.
Researchers observed similar reactions when the subject hurled shopping carts toward unsuspecting shoppers, stood in the deli section rubbing cold cuts against his chest, or got right near cashiers' ears and began loudly singing Yankee Doodle.
In this particular trial, we had our subject, Kevin, take off his shirt, tape a banana to his forehead, and charge at various shoppers like he was a rhino. Within 20 minutes, store owners called the police and he was arrested, allowing us to come to the conclusion that this type of behavior is still considered at least somewhat taboo.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back. This is hour number 2 of Peace News. We're live. It's Thursday, January 8th, 2015. In this segment, we're speaking with New Hampshire State Representative John Burt. He's going to tell us a little bit about rule number 63. Allegedly, the word on the street is that he gave a rousing speech at the State House in favor of the rule change. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Derek. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you for making the time to be on. It's so great to have people, acquaintances in the State House. Now, I didn't know you, but I was just sent through the grapevine towards your name. People said that you gave a rousing speech on this issue. You'd be great to interview about it. I really appreciate you making the time. So we've never met each other, true?
That's true. We have not.
Well, nice to meet you. I'm Derek. I moved to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project in 2011. What about you? Who are you?
Well, I came here in 1998 from the old Vermont, which used to be the conservative Vermont at one time, but that has long since gone.
What, did the hippies ruin it?
Massachusetts and New York trust fund babies ruined it.
Oh, but at least they make good ice cream there. They've got Ben and Jerry's, and New Hampshire has some good stuff. We've got dairies and
oh yes, yeah. No, Vermont has a lot to offer, but unfortunately, in politics, they left me.
Have you been a state rep since the 90s?
No, I joined in 2010. I went in on the big sweep of the Republicans. I sold a company in Vermont that I had in 2007, and that allows me to be a state rep today.
Well, what do you mean that allows you to be? You had to sell your business to be a state rep?
No, I live debt-free, and if I had a debt, we only make $100 a year. So if I had a huge debt like credit cards and car payments and everything else, I would have to have a job, and that would not allow me to put in the time that I want to put in at the State House.
Incredible. Do you find most state reps are business owners?
A lot of them are retired and some are business owners. I mean, I still work part-time, to try to fill in the gaps, but, to make a small living, but I don't have to make the living I used to make over when I had the business in Vermont.
So,
but yeah, there are some people up there that don't have to work on, which would be nice if I didn't have to, but.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'd all love to not work. So
yeah.
I'd love to know more about you, but let's get into Rule 63. What is it? Why does that make New Hampshire unique?
Well, there's 10 other states that allow a New Hampshire. What happened is in 2012, when the Democrats took control of the House, they passed a feel-good bill, and they wanted everybody to hug and go, "Oh, we love each other," and I didn't want to do that. And what they said is that we're not going to allow guns in the State House anymore, because prior to that, for over a couple hundred years, they did allow them. There was a few years where they didn't, but the overall majority of the years they did allow guns in the state.
Was it ever a problem? I mean, were state reps shooting each other and challenging each other to duels?
No, I've never heard of one, and I've never been involved in one, so I would say no.
All right.
So then what happened is I got on the House floor in 2012 and I said, "Madam Speaker, if you pass this, let me make one thing perfectly clear. I, John Burt, will not be a victim in my house." And basically, the rule says we can't carry a sidearm just in the House chamber, but we can everywhere else in the House, in the State House. The Senate could carry, everybody could still carry. You just couldn't carry by the rule, no law, but by a rule in the State House chamber. Everybody still did. Because the other rule next to that one says security cannot search you. Okay, so that works real good.
So it's a totally meaningless rule that they would ban firearms or sidearms in this one particular area of the house, and everyone was ignoring it anyway. So
yeah.
So you made a change.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, the Rules Committee, they had a hearing, and I presented an amendment, and I said I want to get rid of this feel-good rule in a false sense of security. So would you please look at my amendment? They looked at it. I had two amendments. One was to have, constitutional carry, Vermont carry, and then the other was to have conceal carry. And they adopted the conceal carry. I wanted the other one, but I would take conceal carry if that's what I could get.
So is firearms freedom something that's important to you? And coming from Vermont, are you disappointed that New Hampshire has less of it?
I am. I was over here for 9 months. I lived in Woodsville, New Hampshire, and that's up north by Haverhill. And somebody told me, they said, "Oh, John, you carry?" And I said, "Oh, I carry all the time." And they said, "Oh, you must have a license." And I said, "What is a license?" And they explained it. So the next day I called my friend that was on the police force, and I said, "Hey, what's this about this stupid license?" And he goes, "Oh, yes, in New Hampshire we have to have a license." And so I wasn't happy when I found that out.
Yeah, and they're sticklers about the language. They call it a license. It's not a permit because you don't have to ask permission to exercise your rights. It's a shall issue state. So it's a license, and they'll issue it to you. But I don't know if you heard about this or not, John. I was recently denied my concealed carry license. Can you believe it?
I cannot, because that's usually pretty hard to get denied.
Yeah, I was pretty pissed because the police had no justification. I'm not a domestic violence or felon or any of the check boxes that you have to check off to fill out the application. They just decided that I'm not suitable. It's part of the language in the law is that the chief of police can deny you if he thinks you're not suitable. And
well, I would call your state rep and get him on board with that, because the police, locally will issue every license that's requested.
All right,
because they don't be jumping.
Yeah, I mean, I'm annoyed, and I had to take them to court. I ended up losing on appeal, and so I have to take it all the way to the New Hampshire State Supreme Court, which I just filed paperwork to do that today. So,
good.
It's going, but it's annoying, and I appreciate the people like you in the State House who are working to make firearms freedoms a little bit better here.
Yes, well, there is, I believe, I understand there's 12 other states that do allow firearms at their state houses. The newspapers reporting 10, but I've heard 12. And there's 19 total, counting the 12, that have no metal detectors. They don't search anybody. So really, there's 19 state houses that do allow it.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it just you special people with the fancy hats and suits and badges who can wear guns, or is it us mundanes who can walk in there too?
No, I want to make sure everybody understands if you're law-abiding, carry in the state house.
Cool. All right. Well, that sounds encouraging. So,
well, the biggest thing that I was after was I want to make sure that the nuts out there understand that we are armed, because, where do the nuts go? They go to the gun-free zones. And when we were gun-free in the state house or in the House chamber, that's where the nuts are going to go. They're going to say, "Oh, let's run over there and shoot the place up."
Yeah, I titled this episode, "If France had more guns, maybe cartoonists would still be alive."
Yeah. It worked out really well out in France, didn't it?
No, it didn't. And I wish that those people had a chance to defend themselves. I call the show Peace News, and I do care about peace. And I think the guns are a part of that. Maybe you agree?
Absolutely, I do agree.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate people like you who are making the case. Do you find there are other senators or House representatives who are anti-gun? I mean, it sounds crazy to me in a place like New Hampshire. How could you even get elected? But do they exist?
Yes. Policeman, I don't know where he's from, over on the Seabrook area. He got up and spoke against it, and then Shirtliff, which used to be a U.S. Marshal, he got up and spoke against it, and they're both Democrats.
How can people who are not in New Hampshire follow what's happening here in the State House? Because there's so much going on. And I think New Hampshire's got the most exciting local governments anywhere. So
we do.
How can we follow what's going on if we're not in New Hampshire?
Well, I mean, I guess you could, Facebook is a good place. I do a tremendous amount of, reach, to my constituents through Facebook.
Okay, and people just look up John A. Burt on Facebook, and they'll find
John A. Burt on Facebook, or I do have a website, burtnh.com.
That's Burt, BURTNH.com.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, John. I want to thank you for the time that you spent with us today. I certainly appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing about the successes of firearms freedom in the future.
Well, we got some more bills coming in, so keep us in. I'd love to talk more about it.
All right. Terrific. I appreciate it. Peace. Okay, we are on our commercial break, and I want to thank you again for chatting with us, John. I thought it was a terrific segment. I really appreciate your words.
Yes, no, I appreciate you having me on, and we do have Vermont Carry coming and a couple other bills.
I hope so.
Yes, well, we got to get them through the Senate. The Senate is our problem. But, I'd love to talk more at another date when you have more time.
Terrific. I'll be following the issues closely. Thank you again, John.
Okay, thanks, Derek.
Tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you got to keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadavi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
Imagine someone in your community getting in their car, turning on the radio, and hearing the Liberty Radio Network. You can make that vision a reality with your own micro radio station. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how you can put our programs on the air in your area. You can have LRN.FM running around the clock, and you can even add in your own local shows. Building a radio station is simple, but programming isn't. That's where LRN.FM comes in. Learn more at broadcast.lrn.fm. That's broadcast.lrn.fm.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love, and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Yo, 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 welcome back. It is Peace News, Thursday, January 8th, 2015. I'll take your calls on Skype at PeaceNewsNow or dial in 443-424-8347 is the Hi-Fi Civ Disc call-in line. Looking to speak with Morgan Rockwell. Morgan Rockwell, paging Morgan. He should be with us shortly. He's from Bitcoin Kinetics. And if you haven't heard of this guy, Google him. Morgan Rockwell, Bitcoin Kinetics. He's a dreamer who I had heard of him. We were friends on Facebook for a while. He showed me some of his stuff. It just never caught. The gears never linked. And, yesterday we had him on Bitcoin Talk Show, which is a great show on the World Crypto Network. If you're not familiar, go check it out, worldcryptonetwork.com. It's a show once a week. Every Wednesday, we talk to people in the Bitcoin space. And he was at the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas with Ernie Hancock and several other big names. And he was pitching his ideas to Intel, of all places. And he has good reason to do so. He's the inventor of something called the bit switch. I want to hear all about it soon. He's on the road, so it's tough to get a good connection in. We'll hear from him shortly. I want to turn next to a story from Reason.com. And Matt Welch, the editor of the magazine, writes, "Je suis Charlie? No, you're not, or else you might be dead." And the question, of course, in French is, "Are you Charlie?" And of course, no, you're not, or you might be dead. So here's what he writes over at Reason.com. One of the spontaneous social media reactions to the Charlie Hebdo massacre today was the Twitter hashtag Je suis Charlie, or I am Charlie. Right. I was asking, right, Je suis Charlie. I guess it's got a question mark. So it's not are you Charlie, it's I am Charlie. It's an admirable sentiment, resonant with the classic post-9/11 Le Monde cover, Nous sommes tous Américains. It's also totally inaccurate. If we, all of us, any of us, we Charlie Hebdo, here are some of the things that we might do. Not just print original satirical cartoons taking the piss out of Islamic terrorist sensibilities, but also do 6 days after you were firebombed for taking the piss out of an Islamic terrorist sensibilities pictured. And so here, I'm going to show on screen what this was all about. He's got one of the cartoonists from Charlie Hebdo. He's got his black t-shirt on and a pencil behind his ear, and he is making out with what appears to be, I don't know, an Islamic imam, or maybe it's the Prophet Muhammad. Can't quite tell. But the tagline underneath is the message, "Love is stronger than hate." Now, not just if they were Charlie Hebdo, they would not just print original cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, a historical figure, lest we forget, but then defending and winning the right to do so after being charged with offensive speech. Not just survive the crucibles, but stubbornly resist letting them consume your very being, either by becoming an anti-Islamist, obsessive, or a semi-apologetic convert. Remember, even the unfathomably brave Salman Rushdie converted to Islam for a while there, or disappearing yourself in the witness protection program, a la Seattle Alt Weekly cartoonist Molly Norris. So this is crazy. I mean, look at all these cartoonists that produce work. They can produce work about Jesus and all the other prophets. In fact, I think I even got a pretty raunchy image. If you've got children in the room, cover their eyes, because The Onion posted an image back in 2012 when this was back in the news. People were dying over images. Here's one. This is crazy. It's got headline, "No one murdered because of this image." And here we see, oh my God, Jesus and Moses or God or someone with the Star of David on his tattooed on his ass. They're slapping hands while being mutually jerked off by Lord Vishnu, who is also at the same time jerking off and I don't know what that's called, fisting Buddha. So yeah, Washington, following the publication of the image above, in which the most cherished figures from multiple religious faiths were depicted engaging in a lascivious sex act of considerable depravity, no one was murdered, beaten, or had their lives threatened, sources reported Thursday. The image of the Hebrew prophet Moses high-fiving Jesus Christ as both are having their erect penises vigorously masturbated by Ganesha, all while the Hindu deity anally penetrates Buddha with his fist, reportedly went online at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, after which not a single bomb threat was made against the organization responsible, nor did the person who created the cartoon go home fearing for his life in any way. Though some members of the Jewish, Christian, Hindu, and Buddhist faiths were reportedly offended by the image, sources confirmed that upon seeing it, they simply shook their heads, rolled their eyes, and continued on with their day. Yep. That's what should happen when you see something offensive or hear something offensive. Roll your eyes, go on with your day, or produce some art and tell people how upset you are about it and how you wish they were more moral and they should respect you or whatever. Use words, right? Violence is not the answer. The cycle of violence has to end somewhere. And if people see a cartoon and say the right thing to do is use violence against the person who created that cartoon, we need to get our morals straight, guys. Like, that is not okay. That's not all right. And what should be the consequence for people who murder a cartoonist? I mean, 12 cartoonists slain in France. What's going to come of the people who murdered them? I mean, the death penalty or what? Because, like I said, the cycle of violence has to end somewhere. We have to show that this is not a cycle that can continue. I don't think an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth is really the right answer. What I'd like to see, and I'm being completely honest, feel free to disagree. Call in 443-424-8347. I'd like to see a peace and reconciliation committee. After 12 people are slain, I think we don't want their heads on a pike. I want their heads sitting in a room with their hands folded, listening to the victims' families about how they're going to go on and how they have to live without their husband, their father, their child, whoever these cartoonists were to their families. They have to live on. Now, there was another cartoonist, quite famous, one of my favorites, Banksy. He is known for some of his political cartoons. He made one the same day that the French folks were murdered. That's just yesterday. This from Mediaite.com. He shares this powerful tribute to the Charlie Hebdo cartoonists. And here, for those listening, I'll just share with you the image depicts 3 pencils with 3 words above each one. The first one is a pencil totally intact. It says yesterday. Now the pencil that's broken says today. And the pencil that is now broken but sharpened, so there are 2 pencils now, says tomorrow. So the message being obviously that, you kill one cartoonist today, you break their spirits, you've only created 2 more tomorrow. Like the Hydra, cartoonists only grow in number when you try and kill them off. And that's true. I mean, you try and silence anyone, you'll see that the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, all those things are only going to be exercised even more. So radical Islam and the people who promote death to cartoonists, the world is changing. You better catch up. All right, more when Peace News returns.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit Shire Society.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Skype works.
So hopefully I'll be. It's kind of working. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Sound quality is good. What's it not working on your end?
Yep, I just want to make sure that.
You sound really quiet now. You must have taken your mouth away from the microphone.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out how the speaker on here. I don't know if I have the option for speakerphone.
Do you have earbuds?
I have my headphones for the audio, but I wanted to be able to view my screen at the same time as I was speaking to you, because I have a couple users.
I lost you. You there? I have a couple news articles. Was the last thing I heard you say. Ooh, lost that connection. Let's try and get connected here.
To be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it.
Hello.
Here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
You still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm getting kind of crappy audio from you, but
oh.
So let me see. Can you still hear me as I navigate away from Skype?
Yes, I can still
Like
hear
you can hear me right now? Okay, that's good.
Yep.
I've got two stories here. One is talking about Bill Maher's response to this, which is sort of more in line with what the mainstream reaction to this, but I also have one that is sort of, I guess this would be the differentiation between liberals and progressives. I have a progressive article calling the cartoonists quote racist assholes.
Huh, that's interesting.
Which I can't say that on the air, right?
You can.
Oh, I can? Okay.
Yeah.
I just can't say the F word, right?
You can.
Oh.
You can on this show. We're only on pirate radio. We're not on real radio. Some shows I do are on terrestrial radio. This is not one of them.
All right. Yeah, so I was another thing I didn't realize was that there were actually armed people. Two of the victims were police officers.
Victims of oh wow. Yep, I knew that.
So it's not so much that there weren't guns there. I believe that French police officers
hold that thought.
Carry guns.
That's facebook.lrn.fm.
Welcome to Peace News. This is Derek J. You can learn about me at derekj.me. That's my blog, and it's not just Peace News stuff that goes there. There's all kinds of weird stuff that I love to post. Things in the news, dating stuff, whatever's going on in Keene, the updates on my concealed carry. I'm taking the Keene police to the New Hampshire State Supreme Court. Oorah! That's going to be awesome. Wait, oorah, that's like a Marine thing. Ew. So we got a caller. Christopher Freeman calls from New Hampshire. What's on your mind, Christopher?
I was just calling in regarding the Charlie Hebdo story, and actually I heard you guys talking about this earlier. I heard them talking about it on Free Talk Live. The first point that kind of jumped into my head was, well, how would this have unfolded differently if the people in that building had been armed? And that turns out that was actually an erroneous conclusion for me to jump to. Two of the individuals in that building were likely armed. Two of the victims of that shooting were police officers, and the remaining 10 were members of the Charlie Hebdo office staff. So it's sort of an interesting.
The police were unarmed.
The police were unarmed. Is that okay?
That is
so. It is.
That is confirmed from tpnn.com.
Is that typical for French police to be unarmed?
Yeah, let's see. Paris police officers are allowed the option to carry firearms. However, many do not.
Okay. Now it's What's interesting is that the assailants were armed with Kalashnikovs, which in France, I was doing a little bit of research on French gun control. Those are actually grouped into the same category as like tanks and helicopters in terms of the restrictions that are placed on them.
So why is this story important to you?
Well, for me, it's obviously it's a free speech issue, and it sort of raises questions about what the boundaries are on free speech and how you can respond to them. I obviously am a huge proponent of free speech. I think that if you say something that is offensive, you certainly open yourself up to criticism, but you shouldn't be opening yourself up to fire.
Yeah, I agree. So what's the solution?
Well, I think the solution would be to approach it, non-violently, have an open dialogue. You can have, or perhaps even respond with satire of your own. That might have been a more constructive solution.
All right, so we catch the murderers, the people who killed the 12, theoretically. All right, they're apprehended. What do you do with them?
I think that your recommendation earlier, like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission style handling the situation, would be appropriate.
Cool. So is this the only thing on your mind tonight? You got any other thoughts about the Ross Ulbricht trial, about guns in the State House, America's favorite sniper, NAACP explosion, anything?
Well, I had another story. I called into Free Talk Live the other day. I don't know if you want to go into that at all today, the Cassandra Fortin story.
Tell me about it.
Cassandra Fortin is a 17-year-old girl down in Connecticut who she was just recently diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and had declined to seek chemotherapy treatment for it. Her family backed her decision to do this, and her doctors objected and got the state involved, and she's now been removed temporarily from her home by the Connecticut DCF and is being forcibly subjected to chemo at the Connecticut Children's Medical Center. And just today, the case was tried in the Supreme Court, the Connecticut Supreme Court today, and the court unanimously ruled that the state is within its rights to forcibly subject her to chemo.
Well, that's evil.
I would say that it's a fine line between that and rape. To be quite honest, you're forcibly putting something into this girl's body against her wishes. It's total denial of self-ownership.
Yeah, it is. But what else can we expect? This is in Massachusetts, correct?
No, this is actually you may be thinking of the Justina Pelletier. Sure. You may be thinking of the Justina Pelletier case from last year. That was a Connecticut girl whose parents were seeking a second opinion from doctors at, I think, Boston Children's Hospital. And those doctors concluded that the issue was not medical, it was psychiatric, and sought custody of Justina from the parents. So basically, Massachusetts abducted this girl, and they took her off of the medications that she was on, and she went from being a ballet dancer to being confined to a wheelchair within a few weeks.
Right. So that's Justine. What is this other girl's name?
Cassandra Fortin. And so the lawyer is trying to get the syndicate to I think establish a mature minor statute of some sort. And in this particular case, Cassandra is a fairly self-sufficient 15-year-old. She has a full-time job. She's supporting herself, paying most of her bills, but she's a minor and she's legally dependent on her parents.
It's kind of sick because the whole issue comes down to like, well, who owns this girl? Do her parents own her? Does the state own her? And meanwhile, nobody's asking the question, does she own herself?
Exactly, and that seems to be a question that gets overlooked. And I think it's actually something that should be discussed within the anarchist and libertarian community. Is that at what point from conception to the age of 18 does a person own themselves, and at what point can they make decisions for themselves? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've talked about that a lot on Peace News with special guest Michelle Seven. She raised her children in a very different way from most people. Never got them social security numbers, and never got registration, driver's license, passports, things like that. And she describes it this way. She says that ownership or owning something is a verb, and people forget that. When you say you own yourself, what does that really mean? It's that you take the steps necessary to provide for yourself, that you're independent, that you produce your own food, energy, that you put a roof over your own head, that you don't depend on government handouts or the handouts of your neighbors to do whatever it is that you want to do in life, that you're a productive human being. And I think that's a lifetime journey. I don't think we ever really truly own ourselves. We're always sort of what would be the word, like interdependent on others. But it's something to reach for, and it's certainly a goal. And I would say that at least for our modern day usage, like you own yourself when you have your own job, when you can put a roof over your own head. Yeah, sure, you're still a slave to the state. You still owe them the tax money that they'll threaten you for and throw you in a cage for. But you own yourself when you can provide for yourself. I think that's really my answer. What do you think?
No, I think that's definitely an interesting take on it. Sort of like the economics of personal responsibility. One thing that I thought you said that was kind of interesting that caught my attention was that this woman, she did not obtain Social Security numbers for her children. How does that work? And what happens to you if you are caught doing that?
Huh?
Did you mention that the speaker that you interviewed, that her children do not have Social Security numbers, that they don't have passports or IDs or anything like that?
They ended up getting them.
Okay.
They did that on their terms. They decided to do that.
Okay.
And I like that because as a parent, she doesn't act like she owns her kids. They own themselves. They are human beings with choices, and she never deprived them of those choices by making them on their behalf. So I respect that, and I hope more parents choose to do that, because it's not mandatory to get a Social Security number or to feed your children to the state beast. Any other thoughts you want to close on tonight?
Nope, I think that's pretty good for tonight.
Okay, cool. Well, do you have a website or anything to plug?
Not yet.
All right.
Working on it.
Chris Freeman from New Hampshire, thank you for calling in, sharing your thoughts. That's very important. Cheers. All right, we'll take your calls. Skype Peace News Now, or dial in 443-424-8347. We've also got an active chat room over at PeaceNewsNow.com/live. Still coming up, a charitable girl had a lemonade stand. She raised over $100,000. We'll tell you how.
When I found the Free State Project, I knew it was the key to achieving liberty in my lifetime. It's awesome to be surrounded by like-minded, freedom-loving activists who've moved here to New Hampshire. From politics to civil disobedience, we have it all. Where I came from, it felt that no matter what I did, liberty was dying. Perhaps you feel the same way? Call 888-377-2515 now to learn more about the Free State Project. That's 888-377-2515, or visit freestateproject.org.
Free Talk Live.
Are you saying there's something wrong with a gay couple adopting children?
Absolutely.
What could possibly be wrong about that?
Then the children are going to be raised by queers instead of by,
You are homophobic, aren't you, Tom?
No.
So.
But anyway.
What's wrong with them being raised by gay people?
Because gay people are unfit to raise children.
Oh, how dare you?
I object a lot. I had a friend who was adopted by gay parents, and he grew up just fine with completely normal values, and he's a very normal, functioning member of society.
I've met plenty of gay people in my time who I thought would make fantastic parents and would be far better parents than many of the white trash parents that are out there raising kids today. Tom, do you know any gay people?
I try not to, but...
Yeah, well, that figures. You're about done. Thanks for the call.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.lrn.fm. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network when you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Nestle Toll House Refrigerated Cookie Dough. Who would you bake some love for? Find fun and easy baking ideas at tollhouse.com. Kids love doing arts and crafts projects, especially when you join in. Try channeling all that artistic energy into the kitchen and bake up some creative treats together. Think of your art supplies as the frosting, sprinkles, and decorating gels, and use cookies or cupcakes as your canvas. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa, excuse me.
There is no video or audio allowed in this.
I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait a minute.
Forget it.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this? What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Yeah, what's up? Welcome back. This is Peace News. I want to talk to you. We've been chatting with a lot of great guests today, and there's still time for your calls if you want to make them now. You can Skype in Peace News Now or dial 443-424-8347. Now, we got a lot to pack into this final segment because typically we do a lot of news on this show. Today we haven't done that. We turn next to a video from Brave the World. She's going to update you on what's going on with the Silk Road trial and how it's going to change everything.
The result of the Silk Road case will establish our internet freedoms. If Ross Ulbricht is convicted, then we are convicted. Convicted to a closed internet. Convicted to censorship from websites and website hosts, for they will fear liability from the words that we may write. Convicted to self-censorship, for we will fear prosecution for the words that we may write. If Ross is convicted, the internet will become a place of fear, and we will be at the whim of state power. We will be held accountable for our free speech. And no, this will not be a fair trial. The prosecution will be allowed to paint a sinister picture of Ross based on uncharged crimes and inconclusive allegations. Meanwhile, suppressing the defense's right to speak of Ross's freedom-centered and peaceful philosophy and the length of his sentence, which is 30 years to life in prison. So the censorship has begun, and it's happening on your watch. So let's not complain after the fact. Let's show up. The state is testing the waters, and if we don't give them a storm, we consent to our silencing. This is history, and we can't let them write the books. The trial begins Tuesday, January 13th at 9 a.m. at 500 Pearl Street in New York City. Don't pretend to care. Bring your signs.
I will be there, and I have organized a Facebook event currently titled Individuals for Ross Ulbricht. You can take a look at it here because no one is in charge, really. You know, this would be a really risky thing. There's a man named Julian Heicklan who was arrested for handing out jury nullification pamphlets outside of this very courthouse. And even though his charges were dropped years later, he still had to run and seek asylum all the way in Israel. And so we don't want that happening to any of the fine activists who have decided to come down and lend their support to hero Ross Ulbricht. Again, that is happening Tuesday, January 13th. I will be there at 7:30 a.m. because, again, I want to be there to saturate the outside of this courthouse with the message that this man is facing 30 years to life for an innocent, honest website. We turn next to Keene News, where David Crawford writes an op-ed that makes it to the Sentinel Source. Good for you, David. His letter reads, the following is a letter that will be before the City Council soon. I'm sending it to the Sentinel as a letter to the editor, just as now this is public information. He says, to Mayor Lane and the City Council, this letter is regarding parking meter money collected on the free parking days during the holidays. My hope is that that money, as a show of goodwill and to show that Keene is honest, will be returned to the people who patronized businesses in Keene. How can that be done? I've thought of one way. Take that money and give it as a donation to Robin Hood of Keene. That would be a very direct way of getting that money to the people who mistakenly paid parking meters when they were free. A suggestion by David Crawford. Excellent suggestion, David. I can't think of a better one myself. And Robin Hood of Keene does continue to operate despite the chilly winter weather here in Keene, New Hampshire. We turn next to a story. What was the explosion at the NAACP building all about? Well, the Chicago Tribune reports the following. They say, this certainly raises questions of a potential hate crime that, according to the president of the Denver chapter of the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People. But at this point, we're still gathering information. It's a very sad situation, but we're happy where people in Colorado Springs are safe. This is the news report from local media. Take a listen. Oh, if this will even load.
A stick of dynamite shakes a Colorado Springs neighborhood.
603 South El Paso Street for an explosion, structure fire.
What we're learning about this breaking blast and its dangerously close proximity to the local NAACP chapter.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Deborah Takahara.
I'm Jeremy Hubbard. The explosion rocked a building that houses several businesses, including the NAACP. Fox 31 Denver's Kent Erdahl live in Colorado Springs right now with the breaking news. Kent?
Well, Jeremy, first of all, it's important to note that there were no injuries, and the building, which is actually behind me right here, did not have any physical damage. But having said that, there is a lot of concern tonight and a lot of federal agencies that are here investigating, especially considering the fact that this happened so close to that NAACP chapter and several businesses, and of course, this entire neighborhood.
Some kind of explosive exploded, and they have charred concrete, no smoke, no flames.
There may not be much damage from the blast outside this Colorado Springs business complex, but it certainly left an impact.
I heard a loud boom. It was loud, sir. It was so loud that I thought it was like in the yard.
Though the explosion happened across the street, federal and local investigators spent part of the afternoon in Janet Carnita's yard.
They were looking for metal from the device or whatever kind of explosion that was.
Other neighbors who asked not to be identified said they watched as a man in a pickup pulled up to this corner of the building this morning and placed this gas can on the ground. He then appeared to light some kind of device, they said, before taking off. The owner of a barber shop inside says the device was some sort of pipe bomb. Though there were no injuries or physical damage to the building, the FBI, ATF, and Joint Terrorism Task Force, among others, are trying to determine whether the businesses, specifically the NAACP, were targeted. Meanwhile, neighbors are anxiously awaiting an arrest.
I hope so, because whoever it is going to come back. It's going to come back.
What? Why do you think that?
Somebody.
All right, this whole thing stinks to me.
Just the past few minutes, we did receive an update saying they are looking for a white man in his 40s who was balding. And they said the vehicle he was driving, that truck, it was a white pickup with wood paneling on the side. Now, the NAACP National Chapter released a statement saying that they are following this investigation and that they will keep an open mind. But the president of the local chapter here just spoke to us minutes ago and said that he does not believe that this is a coincidence, that they may have, in fact, have been targeted. I'll have much more on that coming up at 5:30. For now, reporting live in Colorado Springs, Kent Erdahl, Fox 31 Denver.
All right. Thanks for that update. Yeah, Fox 31 over in Chicago, because this whole story stinks to me. I mean, collect the facts, yeah, that's important, but all right, one white dude in his 40s, balding, and in a white pickup truck with wood paneling. It seems so nondescript. And then what he drops off is essentially a homemade explosive at a building that also contains the NAACP. It's got a bunch of other businesses in there. I mean, this is a weak target. If this guy intended any sort of terrorist act, he's like pretty weak at it. And yeah, I hope they find him. Why is there no surveillance video that the news is showing? So why do I bring this up? Because we know that false flag attacks do happen, that the CIA, the FBI, and other government agencies, they contact people, and then they contact people who are a little bit touched in the head, who already have these ideas of like, oh, I want to do violence against people. And then they say, oh, well, here's some bomb-making materials, and here's the skills to be able to do that. We'll help you out. We'll set you up with a little partner, and then we'll get someone to drive over with you, drop off the bomb, or have someone who looks like you drop off the bomb. And then, you get tagged for the whole thing. You go to jail. We stop in as the heroes, save the world, and we justify our own existence. So I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying this has the makings of a story that looks a little bit like that. I'm going to be paying attention to Chicago and any other homemade bomb stories that are coming out of this area. Now, back to some of these stories from... What do I have coming up? Oh, totally just lost it. Sorry. Oh, Pat Robertson. So, this guy's always good for a laugh. We were talking about religion earlier and radical Islam, these people who died because of the cartoons they made. And yeah, I pick on Islam a lot because there's a lot of crazies who kill people, but let's not forget how crazy some of the Christians can be. Listen to what Pat Robertson advises to parents of children who aren't fond of religion. This is what one of the most mainstream Christian advocates has to say about the topic.
This is Karen Pat, who says, we declined going to our daughter's house on Christmas this year because there's always an argument, hard feelings, etc. One grandchild comes high on marijuana, cursing and challenging our faith. I correct him and have told my daughter to ask him to respect our beliefs, but he keeps it up. Our daughter says she's a Christian, but will drink too and offend her daughter and her husband. Were we wrong not to attend another Christmas that leaves us upset or someone angry? I've shared my beliefs many times with them and am ridiculed by this grandson and son-in-law.
Somebody take that kid to the woodshed and let him understand.
Wow, Pat Robertson, take him to the woodshed. Violence is the answer. Isn't that what Jesus would have done? Anyway, that concludes this episode of Peace News. I want to thank our special guests, John Burt, John Vibes, Dave Ridley, and Christopher Freeman for calling in. Anyone else, catch PeaceNewsNow.com. In the meantime, peace.
If you are successful at what you do, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner, or you have a great career, you understand the concept of protecting yourself. Well, are you protecting?
Yeah, so I want to thank all you listeners who are still there. This concludes this episode of Peace News. You can catch us online at PeaceNewsNow.com or my website, derekj.me. If you enjoyed this episode, I ask that you contribute to it to make sure that future episodes can continue happening. I rely solely on donations from you, the listener. You can donate in Bitcoin by using the QR code there on your screen. All you have to do is scan it. I recommend sending about 50 cents. Or more. That's cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Peace.